Triple Shot Mindset.
How are you guys doing? You first, Kevin.
Okay, I'm doing really well. I do have a sinus issue going on, so I'm congested. So I sound like everybody loves Raymond, right? I put essential oils on my nostril here, both of them actually, and the smell is good, but it doesn't open. It doesn't open. What?
Did you do a line of Coke too?
No.
Yes.
So I'm not breathing so well. However, it is a good day. I had good breakfast burrito with chorizo inside. Chorizo. Can't go wrong with the chorizos.
Mexican, sausage.
Can't go wrong with the chorizo. Thank you. Can't go wrong with the sausage.
Right.
I had that, and I had it. Oh my God! I had a matcha latte with oat milk.
Did you?
Oh,
That
great.
washed down pretty well.
Great.
Yeah, now I'm here.
And how are you doing?
All right.
I'm
I'm
great.
gonna
Had a nice
cut
drive.
you guys off after a minute and a half.
I'm done. Had a nice drive
You had a
in.
nice drive. And
She
you
had some vanilla latte stuff that's in Kelly Clarkson
No,
for 40
bro,
cents.
I had vanilla cold brew, and then I had a matcha latte, which is why I'm all turbulent.
I need to use the bathroom, but
And
the
that.
bathroom here in the office is being worked on by plaster people.
They always seem to come on Fridays. They do.
Okay. That's great. So my day was great. I woke
How
up.
was your day?
Yeah, I went to bed at around 1:30 or 2 o'clock.
Why is that? Why so
And
late?
I woke up at 6 o'clock because my kids had to drink a lot of water because I gave them pepperoni pizza. So the nights I give them pepperoni pizza, they get extremely, extremely thirsty around 12:31. And they were afraid if they go downstairs by themselves to get water, there are bad people outside that will come and get them or kill them. So that's why they took me downstairs with them to get them water. And then, they had to pee 2 hours later, yada, yada, yada. Here I am. Speaking of which, speaking of drinking, the other day, you guys need to calm down with the funnies, okay? This is a serious topic. A serious topic. It's a serious topic. That those of us who are in the dating market or the self-growth market as well, we run into a lot. So the other day I was at a eclectic market, okay?
Do you
What
want
was
to name
it called?
It was called Trader Joe's. They have about 180 locations throughout the United States, most of them on the West and East Coast, some in mid-America, none in New Zealand or Ho Chi Minh City or places in Sweden.
If we were to go to traderjoes.com, are we able to find such locations?
TraderJoe's.com, www.traderjoes.com, not a sponsor. But anyway, I was at Trader Joe's and myself and my two kids were waiting to pay for our groceries. And the lady in front of me, she started having a conversation with the cashier. Thank you. Thank you for finishing my sentences.
Sorry.
And the lady asked something of the cashier. I have no idea what she said because she was mumbling it as I am now. And the cashier answered with the phrase, "I'm doing okay," like in a very down voice. "I'm doing okay. I'm just playing it safe for now." And they said something about work and they said something about their husbands or whatever. It was all very I'm in the same boat as you, or maybe next lifetime we can do better. And I was shaking my head in disapproval because when people talk about certain things being wrong with their work or careers or husbands or wives or relationships, and they say, for now, we're just winging it, or I'm okay for now, or da-da-da. That all tells me that you don't have the, passion or the balls to do something about it, to change your destiny. And you're just going along with whatever is comfortable for you. So playing it safe, quote unquote, in my opinion, means that I'm actually playing it out of fear. And I was one of those people before my divorce. I always played it safe. Okay, this is my house. I don't want a bigger house, or I can't, do anything because it's safe. I have control over this expense. This is my relationships with my friends. Not all of them, but some of them are like, just very bottom feeder types. And don't say that in a bad way. I just mean like they weren't as enlightened. They weren't as educated. They weren't as brave to do things about their lives. And they're all, every time we got together with them, they're all complaining. So I was one of them, because when you are just, getting by, when you're just dealing with something, you're just playing it safe, you don't have the bravery to break out of that pattern, because all of a sudden it's out of your control. So for me, after the divorce and not having that safety net anymore, I said, well, heck, what do I have to lose? I mean, I lost the illusion of my life, wife, kids, house. I lost that safety net. So what else do I have to lose? Why am I just being content with being safe all the time? So that's when I started changing. So my point to this whole story is that at one point you have to look at your life. And I know you may not agree with that, because you say, well, this is my purpose. And some people, when they say this is my purpose, this is my destiny, and they latch it on to something comfortable, I think that's bullshit, because I think our souls are capable of doing more and experiencing more. So, but I think one day when you're laying in your bed at 98 years old and you're trying to figure out this soul of yours that came into your body and now it's about to leave, and what kind of experiences did you give that soul in that physical body? And I want to be able to know that I gave my soul everything that it could have asked for and more. I gave my soul the experiences that it couldn't have experienced unless it was in the physical. And I gave it those experiences. I pushed myself to give it the life it deserved. I put myself in positions to do things that most people don't want to do. And I think once I heard the lady say that at Trader Joe's, it made me sad for her, because people who think like that, people who play it safe, whether it's in a relationship, they're with a wrong person, or like they're alone but they don't want to put in the effort to do better or like rise up to the challenge. I think it's not a matter of next year I'll change my job, next year I'll get into a better relationship. They will actually go to their grave with that predicament, because it's never going to be a safe time to step out and step into your what you're capable of having for yourself. So unless something dramatic happens, an illness, a divorce, a death, or something of your loved ones, that will shake you to your core. And I think if we are able to create that shift, step up into our power, without any of those happening, it's better than to wait and have it happen on the terms, like on a negative term. So as I walked out of Trader Joe's, I couldn't help but also realize that another person we know, Ned from Albertsons supermarket, for past 20 years, he has been also complaining about the same thing. We walk in every day and he looks, oh man, another day, another dollar. Every time he's checking out, groceries, or like, doing whatever a cashier does, whoever listens to him, he tells them the story of his sad life. And so a coach in front of me, he seemed like a coach type, again, as we were checking out. This was a couple of years ago. He said, Ned, why are you always complaining? Either do something about it or just, accept this that you have and be the best at it. You can't be a cashier. And he said, well, I decided 20 years ago that I want something better. And here I am. So I see that a lot around me. I see my mom talking about the mistakes she made in her marriage, or how angry she is at her marriage or previous marriage, but they're not willing to let go of that identity. They're not willing, because that is safe. Like, if I'm not a divorced mom, and that has been my identity for the past 40 years, how can I take on a new, more empowered identity. The lady at Trader Joe's, the guy at Albertsons, how can they step out of that? And some people say, well, they can't really step out of it because they need the money to survive. So it's easier for someone who's richer, who has the support, who has a safety net to step out. And I say no, because the only way you're going to grow into the next version of yourself is to go through hardships. Like, you cannot grow if you're not having hardships. My kid cannot grow bigger if he doesn't have his leg pains every 3 nights that he cries and says, Daddy, why do my shins hurt? Because you're growing. He's like, well, I wish it didn't hurt, but would you rather than stay 3 feet 11 for the rest of your life? He's like, no, I want to be 6 feet tall. I'm like, then that's a pain you have to go through. So people need to go through pain. They need to go through hardships in order to level up. And that was a good lesson.
Sure was.
Yeah.
So Ned, again, I think we're mentioning some corporate names here. We should be getting paid. Who works at Albertsons.
Yeah.
There's another guy a couple weeks ago. He was checking me out. He's
Whoa, dude.
checking me out like doing his checkout work on me. Anyway, shut up.
I like it though.
His attitude was really, and this guy was much older than Ned, probably like 60 something.
The guy with a mustache.
I don't know. It looks like
the guy with
Hawaiian Asian mix-ish.
Not the same guy.
Not the same guy. So he's doing that, blick, 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 and he asked me, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I own a business." And then he said, "Okay, as soon as I'm done, can you wait 1 second?" So he did, bagged everything, bloop, paid for the food, and then he said, "Here's my business card. It's always been my dream to have a bookkeeping business / accounting business, and I just started it. Please, if you need, call me. I'll give you a good rate. Any customer I have, I'm happy." Then I thought to myself, there's Nettie there, yapping every freaking day how much I hate this and not doing anything about it. Here's this new young gun, not nagging, but he actually did something about it. He went and made a business card to expand his horizon, reach his dream.
Yeah.
So I see that, number one, great, good for him. You know, he has to go through that. But his attitude, without the attitude, you throw him out there to go find another job. Oh, I'm back. Number two, I was going to say Bashar, the man who closes his eyes and channels.
Bashar is a name of the...
Oh, is it that's the alien?
Yeah. That's the
What's the guy's name?
Well, he has a different name.
Okay, we'll go with different name.
Let's say Joe Johnson.
Okay, let's go with JJ. JJ, when I was listening to him the other day, I think he speaks to people in a way that, hey, yes, you are working at Albertsons or Trader Joe's and you're unhappy with it, but this is because that's exactly where you should be. Don't push yourself because that's not the universe wanted for you. I get it. I'm just saying. There are people like that who have that mentality. Now, whether or not this Bashar guy is actually saying this or that's just him trying to make everybody seem like, oh, good, I don't have to try harder. I am where I am because I'm supposed to be here. But there's two trains of thought. One is I can do better. I should push myself. The other is this is where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Well, yeah, but I think to Bashar's on point, you could also be a dropout, and you could end up on the streets and shoot up cocaine and say, well, this is what the universe and
to that point, I say, okay, good. This is round 1 of 7 rounds that you're going to be going through this whole cycle to become a better person spiritually, so that you can evolve and go to the next phase of.
So I think you're right, but to an extent, I think your soul versus your what your physical body wants to do are two different things. Your soul wants to purify through all these different reincarnations or whatever, right? I think from your physical body, you owe it, like you are the master of this body. Your brain is a master of this body. Your soul is a driving force for other things. But in case you lay in bed all day long and you give so much weight to what you like and don't like, then I think you're going to go into a state of depression, and like you're not going to lose your purpose. You are going to lose your purpose. So
let me say something. Can you install the latest version of Mac OS on your iPhone 3? No. You think everybody's the same, but they're not. I believe there's a limit in everybody as you go up this ladder of being more pure from a soul perspective.
You're talking about soul. I'm talking
evolving.
about.
But the physical phone, iPhone 3, does not have, even if they wanted to, there's something that stops them.
Okay. So I think everyone has the same brain.
I don't think so.
Okay. But everyone biologically has the same brain. Biologically, dude.
No, that's a safe thing to say.
It's not. Let's start with the, lowest common denominator. Everyone has a body. Everyone has a mind, right?
Is my finger the same as your finger?
Doesn't matter the finger.
It does matter. I'm saying the brain is the same way. Mine is different. Yours is different. Hers is different.
It has become conditioned to be different from childhood, right?
I don't think so.
If you give your kid Twinkies and, things to stimulate their, just entertainment side of their brain. Oh, here you go, watch, teddy bear, Teddy Rock spin on, TV or whatever. And if you come home every day, mom and dad come home and they're bringing their baggage. Oh, let's just play it safe. Let's be scared of the virus. Let's be scared of this. Let's be scared of that. That creates your mind. That creates your reality. If you take another kid, put him in a household that everyone is a free thinker, they question things, they talk about, the universe, they talk about your abilities, they put good food in their bodies, they're self-aware, that's two completely different outcomes. So in 40 years, the kid who is eating Twinkies for breakfast, he is probably overweight, he is diabetic, he is sick, he is angry at the world, he is all that because their parents brought home all these negative things, reinforcements that the world is bad, people are bad, you got to be safe, you got to be scared, versus the other person who at 40 years old, he's an entrepreneur, he is living the life of his dreams. So people they are born, I think, equally. Now, if they have a short finger or 6 toes, that doesn't matter because they don't make decisions for you. A finger doesn't make a decision for you.
Well, what I was trying to say is that the equipment may look the same, but it may not be functioning the same. Let me finish. The same way you are an enlightened person and you want to constantly reach higher and become better, just like the iPhone metaphor I just used, an iPhone 3 has a capacity. You cannot put the latest and greatest on there. Let me finish, please.
At this age, yes.
Let me finish. The iPhone 14, 15, you can put a lot more shit onto it. Imagine those iPhones look the same to you. Okay, they didn't change the size. Let's say it stayed the same from generation 3 to generation 15. You cannot just look and say, oh, this must, if it wants to, it should be able to have that software on it. I'm saying people that you meet that are not yet reaching for the stars, I believe they are programmed, not by parents and whatever. That has something to do with it for sure. But I think there is a limit to their bravery, to their seeing the world differently.
And where do you think that came from?
They have to, I said some of it has to do with conditioning.
All of it has to do with conditioning.
No. The same way you cannot jump. Let's say I condition you to jump and would you ever reach 20 feet? No. There's a limit.
We're not talking about the physical limits. We're talking about the mental limits.
But then maybe you should look at it as there is something as a mental limit too. For some people, until they die and come back, the spirit says, oh,
but the spirit,
let me turn on this other...
Spirit will not turn on your mind.
You don't know that.
I know that.
No, you don't know that. You cannot definitively say you know. You don't know.
Kevin, intellect is...
You think it is.
One box. Spirit is another box. Physicalness is one box. Like all these different things have different boxes. If your spirit, once your spirit comes out of your body, it's not going to go say, oh man, I should have used my brain more to get ahead in high school. I don't think that's how it works. What I'm saying is a lot of people, everyone is born, I think, and my ex-wife used to say this and I didn't believe her until I started believing it because I looked at studies, I looked at people who talk about this stuff that said everyone, when they come here to this world, they're all created equally. They don't have any fear. They don't have any, trauma. They don't have any of that yet, right? Unless your mom's a druggie and you used to get beat up when you were in the womb. But for the most part, everyone is equal. It's like a sponge. So what do you give that sponge? If you put some fear on it and some trauma on it and something like, oh, you can't, you shouldn't do that. Your dad's an alcoholic. You got to be scared of everyone. Go punch out your best friend. That creates in 50 years, a person who's going to end up in jail, who's going to be unhappy, who's going to live day to day. And, he's not going to have any desire to mentally.
I see where the problem is. Learning. Yes, I get learning. You can learn lots of things. As a kid, you can learn 50 languages. Learning is okay. Learning, we put aside. The spirit and brain connection is what I'm talking about.
I don't think there is one.
That is your humble opinion.
I don't think spiritual growth has anything to do with intellectual growth.
Actually it does.
Our mom's grandma, the sweetest person in the world, right? Very angelic, very holy, very, whatever, right? You would say she belongs with God because how kind she was. She used to go to the, they don't have shelters back then in Iran, but she used to go out in the streets, find dogs that are dying, and she would bring them into her yard, feed them, nurse them, do whatever she needed to do to get them back up and running. And she would feed them first before she fed herself. And my mom always says, my grandmother was an angel. Her grandmother was an angel because she would see the life and the spirit in other living beings, and she would tend to them first before she tend to herself. But she could not fucking pick up a book about algebra. She could not, doesn't know what Tony Robbins is if you showed her to it. It has nothing to do with that.
What I was saying, if you let me finish actually for once, is where does passion come from? Passion is a soul thing, I believe. Passion is your soul.
Sure, it is.
Okay? If that soul is iPhone 3, okay? No, not iPhone 3. The equipment around it is iPhone 3. No matter how passionate you are, it doesn't connect the dots. Okay, I need to do this. You may be kind like great-grandma was, but the equipment was not matching the iOS.
I understand.
In other words, you can be, not everybody's made like you. That's what I'm trying to say. You have the passion that matches with the ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah. It fits perfectly, and then therefore allows you to open up level 2 and go to level 2.
If I didn't have my own experience 2 years ago, I would agree with you. I was like, yep, it is what it is. I'm who I am, my passion, whatever. But it's a series of embedded thoughts, usually just limiting beliefs in your head, trauma, fear of rejection, fear of everything, fear of being ridiculed, that you don't come out and talk to people about your dreams and ambitions and your purpose. A lot of people that they interview, they're like, you're 80 years old. What was your purpose? What was your passion? It's like, well, my passion was to create, for example, this drug that would cure people out of cancer, but I chose to go into accounting because that was safer. That would put a roof over my head. And besides, people would laugh at me if I told them I have a cure for cancer.
Do you think, both of you, and Amanda, you can speak as we haven't heard from you, do you think that the universe will open or shake you out of your comfort zone when it knows you're ready to go to the next level? Like in your case, a divorce shook you out of your comfort zone and said, okay, you're ready now. This was our wake-up call to you so you can become more enlightened. And some other persons, they're like, you know what? You're not ready. You're still, we're not going to shake you out of that because you're going to come back again, boy. You're going to do this again this time instead of accounting. You're going to become a cardiologist because you're going to be ready by then. Does that make sense?
Wow, this has been wonderful to listen to because I got so many thoughts.
Beautiful.
I got to say, this is my favorite position to be in. Don't overthink that statement.
Believe me, we're not.
Between you two, I love when you're both right and I can just bring it together. When you both agree, that's when there's usually a problem, in my opinion. But you're disagreeing, and that's what I like to see because you're both correct, in my opinion. I think of every life like Grand Theft Auto, the video game. I think that the soul is like the player. And sometimes the soul is like, I'm going to go onto the Grand Theft Auto mission. It's going to give me the 5 accomplishments and I'm going to hit every single one and I'm going to like go there. Other times, like sometimes you're in the mood for that. Other times you're like, I'm going to go fucking beat up an old woman, like with the bag until she's on the floor bleeding. Then I'm going to kick her body. Then I'm going to shoot all the cops. And then I'm going to kill myself in the best explosion that I can, all while using cheats.
Right.
It could be the same soul doing both of those missions back to back on the same day. Now for us, a day, for the soul, a day is like a whole lifetime on earth. So my soul is like, I'm going to come in as Amanda this time. And we're going to be like this epic, enlightened meditator teacher type. And then in the next life, I'm going to be a drug addict and die of an overdose at like 18 because I want to know what it's like to do both. I think I legitimately agree with Kevin in that I think the soul comes with an idea of what it wants to experience and the soul stays in that realm. Unless, of course, the mission is to accomplish all these things and grow. And then it's in your realm, like you said. I've seen people working with as a healer. I've seen people come up to me and be like, Amanda, I really want to break through all my blocks and just be the best version of myself. So I'll be like, I got you, baby. We'll go into the quantum realm. We'll flip all the switches. By 24 hours, their soul has flipped all the switches back because it's not ready. And as a healer, that's really disheartening sometimes. It was in the beginning for sure, because you're like, we literally unbound curses and unblock things so that you can go out and be the millionaire you dream of being. But only like 25% of them wanted that. 75% wants to stay exactly where they are. So they flip all the switches back and you're like, oh my God.
Do you feel that is a fear issue or is that the soul is not ready?
I think the soul's not ready.
I don't buy that. Because...
Hold on. Let me just finish that. It looks like it's a fear issue. It looks like it is. You're like, oh my God, they're just afraid. But the soul will trigger the trauma that it needs when it's ready. That's what you were trying to say earlier, I think. Like the soul will trigger the divorce when it's ready for that. Because it's like, okay, he's ready to grow now. Flip that switch and boom. Because that's on the soul's contract. Like that's the mission it already set up before it came. But for other people, 1,000 switches will flip and that will never catalyze their growth. And I know souls like this who have everything falling apart behind them and you're like, that must have been rock bottom. No, that for sure was rock bottom. That's gotta be rock bottom, right? And they're like, nope, I'm still doing exactly what I'm gonna do until I die. And you're like, oh my God. Some privileged people go through life. They're born rich. Their parents are rich. They get the best education. Their brain is molded to be entrepreneurial and brilliant. And they have spiritual parents. And they're like a total weird asshole who's actually like the most destructive thing you've ever encountered. And you're like, you were given every opportunity and set up for greatness, but it's because the soul decided, it doesn't matter what you give me. I want to experience chaos and destruction. And that's just going to be the way it is.
Right.
That's all.
I kind of agree and disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look at the universe, okay, first of all, it's not a time-space kind of a thing that we think it is. Second of all, we have all these spirits floating around and only like a small percentage of them get to be incarnated into a life form, right? So if you know that there is like a wait list of like, 200 million people, billion people ahead of you, and they all want to come to Earth, and you finally get to come in, right? And you get to do whatever you want to do, and you get to accomplish things and like be enlightened and level up and all that stuff. I think you asking, let's say, one of your clients, "Are you ready to do this?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm ready to do this." There is an aspect of free will. There's an aspect of putting in the work that becomes a little bit of a diversion in that. And once they see that there's hard work to be done, once they see that they have to come out of their comfort zone, I think they self-sabotage that growth. I see people that, like friends, who have brilliance inside of them, who can really switch, lanes and go to the fast lane, who can let go of toxic or old relationships that no longer serve them well. They can let go of old thinking patterns, old jobs, old careers, all that stuff. But they have to be uncomfortable for 1 year, for 2 years. They have to be uncomfortable financially. They have to be uncomfortable physically, emotionally, all that. And they would rather say no. Okay, they convince themselves to stay in the status quo because going through that, it's scary. Scary, being faced with something that they don't know what the outcome will be. So they'd rather stay there. That's why out of 100 people, 1 or 2 of them will actually do that transformation, do the work, and say, you know what, I'm going to believe that my parachute's going to open once I take that leap of faith. And the other 98 will just wait there like, well, let's ridicule him for doing this. Let's, make fun of him because we can't have the balls to be in that shoes ourselves. So I think kids in high school, when we were growing up, there were kids who really wanted to do something with their lives. Great. There are people like me who had no idea what we want to do in our lives. Great. But there were people who would constantly think negative thoughts, would constantly think people were out to get them, constantly thinking that the next guy walking behind them is going to stab them in the back, even though we went to a very nice, privileged high school. I think that kind of creates your destiny. I think my kids who've been taught, for example, that they can do anything, that they can be free and like dance around in the streets or at the mall and no one tells them to stop because it's impolite to do that, they're going to have a different outcome in life than if their twin sister, for example, was told constantly, you got to be polite, you got to be this, you can't do that, oh, that's too much to do, a girl should only do this. Her upbringing, her level of thinking would be different. No matter how much that soul wants to get out and tell you, hey, I want to be the president of the United States, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to, fly to the moon. Physically, you've been told so many things while you're growing up that, so one of the things I tell my mom is that when she's watching my kids versus when she's watching his kid, I've seen her demeanor kind of like, honey, you should not do that, because in Farsi we say zeshte. Zeshte means it's not proper, right? So if we're at the mall and like, let's say Kayla says, hey, mom, look at me. Like everyone looks at her like, zeshte, like it's not proper. Like you can't act like that. When my kids are around and my mom says, don't you think we should tell them it's zeshte? We're like, no, I'm not going to tell them that because I don't want them to think. Now, I'm not advocating for people being, rude and like, impolite, but certain things aren't going to change anything. Like if my kids want to dance in the middle of a mall, it's not hurting anyone. Yeah. Let them do it. Let them express their souls. Yeah.
You're keeping your kids wild souls.
I want their soul to not have any
restrictions, limitations, and conditioning that may prevent them from expanding to the degree that their soul desires to expand when the time comes.
Yes.
100% understand that. I completely agree with you, and I completely agree with you, and I don't think these two are at oppositionary things at all. The thing that I feel is the trip up here is that the way you make it sound is that the soul is a prisoner to conditioning. Mm-hmm. And the way I see it is that the soul actually chooses the conditioning. And whether the soul decides to break free of that conditioning or not will depend on the soul's own capacity, as you said, whether it really wants to be the iPhone 3 or the iPhone 13. In my own life, when I look back at it, there have been times when I've been presented challenges that I don't know how I survived. And there are times that I've been presented opportunities that I don't know why I turned down. And the only thing I can think of is that there was a greater force moving me in a certain direction. Who am I to say that at 30 years old, I couldn't be some version of successful? Like maybe I should be as famous as Oprah and as rich as Elon Musk, but maybe I fucked up a lot of choices in the way and I'm missing my potential and I don't see it. Or maybe because of my life, I should have died of a drug overdose at 25 and somehow I'm just lucky to be alive. We're always floating in the middle of life and death, and I think we're making judgment calls about what the soul's potential is and what the soul's potential isn't. But I think the truth is every soul, as Bashar would say, right? That's his name, is actually where it's supposed to be exactly. And that there is nothing wrong with where that soul is. And it's actually a judgment call of the ego to say you are or are not meeting your potential. The truth is there is perfection in everyone's journey, wherever they are on that journey. Because as you said, it's not time, space dependent, and it's not linear.
So let's go back to that, Bashar, right?
Okay.
One of the things I have a problem with, and he could be just channeling bullshit, he could be channeling correctly. I don't know what he's channeling, but in my opinion, humble, which is always the right kind.
Yeah.
You have a choice, right? If your soul inside of you, you say, for example, maybe it was meant to suffer and like be in a pool of its own piss in downtown LA, shooting up drugs.
Yes.
At what point does a person have to take responsibility for their actions? I think for me, if my kid was going to say, Dad, well, I'm going to go sleep with 20 women, get them all pregnant. This is my soul's purpose. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out because you don't have self-control. That's a cop-out because you don't have, any...
I think we're talking about leaps of faith versus...
I'm talking about leaps of faith. I'm not talking about like a lifestyle, because if you go back to your lifestyle...
but you were just saying your kid will get 21 pregnant, and that's a cop-out. I'm just talking about the soul's purpose isn't like, I needed to kill this person. That was my soul talking. I'm talking about leaps of faith. Am I gonna go from this direction to this direction and pursue something better? Maybe the time isn't, like she said, maybe the time is not right. Therefore, that door, that opportunity, that shake-up will not happen until you're here. And then it will happen.
So the girl who's playing it safe at
Trader Joe's,
the guy who's playing it safe for 20 years at Albertsons, at which time do you guys want to put some responsibility on his shoulders for not pursuing a better life? Like, you cannot say, well, soul's purpose, maybe he needs to be
I'm saying
in Albertsons for another 20 years.
The soul is connected to his bravery. When it is time, maybe for him it's not the time. Maybe he's just a dreamer and he yaps a lot because he likes to. But once those two are aligned and the soul says, okay, now you're brave, tomorrow you wake up with a new perspective on life and you're going to pursue it, he will wake up with a new perspective on life. Say, fuck it, man. Screw Albertsons. I'm submitting my resume to JP Morgan.
So as long as you are complaining, you can't have courage. Because if you're complaining constantly and you don't have the courage to do anything about it, it's your free will to say one day, I've had enough, right? What I'm saying is you should not be in a job or in a relationship, in a situation that you don't want to be in, because you have free will. You have free will. You have to get out of your comfort zone in order to grow. Your soul wasn't here. Like, I can understand you go through certain things for your soul to grow. Obviously, like if your kid, God forbid, dies or something happens, you will grow out of that. You will understand better why this is happening. But for you to let's say, we know people who are 15 years younger than us who are supposed to not you, I'm not talking about you, who have all the tools available to them to make a life for themselves. And they constantly choose the path of least resistance, the path that gives them bodily pleasures, right? Oh, I'm going to go do this, go on this app and, have sex with as many women as I want. I'm going to smoke, my vape. I'm going to do that. That is all you.
Those are bad decisions. That's not a leap of faith. I think you cannot make every decision be a soul decision. Some things are just stupid things people do because they're stupid.
But I think I understand your point.
Thank you.
I get it too.
Which is why are you complaining? If you're choosing a circumstance because your soul wants it, then why are you complaining about it?
So when Bashar says, you're exactly supposed to be where you are, I think if you take that too literally, it gives every homeless, every murderer, every child, rapist a cop-out. That, this is what the universe wants me exactly to be here. No. You deciding to sleep with a minor, that is your fucked up mind.
Again,
based on this
leap of
stuff.
Faith, to me, is such a positive thing, not raping and murdering.
Yeah, but I'm saying these little things add up to the big picture. If you are, let's say you're like, well, little things don't matter in the big picture. Of course they do, because the big picture is made out of the little decisions you've made along the way. When you're a kid, for example, is told no 100 times, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, it's improper, zechte, all that stuff. that puts a kid on a trajectory that's going to be separate from what her soul canon is able to accomplish. So making that trajectorial change, going from here, 500 yards away to go back on track, it's going to take something huge, a divorce, an illness, or whatever, to get them to go back to where their soul is supposed to be.
Obviously, everybody wants to do as good parents, we raise good children. Okay.
Based on your own fears and limitations, though.
You can
That's
say
what
whatever you want. No,
it's not personal, Kevin. No. I'm saying in general, when people raise their kids, they base it on fears and limitations that they both have.
Let me finish. Yes, the fear is don't stick a knife into an electric socket. That's my fear.
I did that as a kid.
I tell my kid when she was little, do not stick that in because she was very curious.
Yes.
Yeah, so is that fear and limitation?
Limitation is saying you shouldn't do this. Like you can't do that. Don't dance in the thing. Don't be too loud.
Please just let me finish. Give me like 2 minutes. Every parent that I know has never said you cannot be the president of the U.S., you cannot be an astronaut, you cannot be a cop. Get out of your head. I know no parent that talks like that.
Actually, there are parents that talk like that.
Okay, maybe 2 generations ago said, no, a woman belongs in the kitchen, see? Now, the generation I know, everybody's raising their kids, the people I know, they do not say, don't do this, don't do that. As a matter of fact, today's children are not like boxed in. You go to the park, see kids running around, doing everything, picking up everything, eating it, and I don't see those parents as much as I used to before. When the time is right, I think, the time is right and that door will open. For example, one Sandra L., I cannot mention last name, Sandra L., for the longest time she would tell us, I want to be an entrepreneur, but oh my God, I'm scared. Yes, that's his brain. But all of a sudden, God, universe, opened up a door for her.
She got married. She got a rich guy.
So this is part of the soul's destiny to have been here. Maybe 10 years ago, she would have failed.
But that's not growth. If your rich husband becomes the safety net for
forget
you.
the growth part. I'm just talking about the door will open.
But you just said that. Like
I never said the word growth. Never said the word growth. Never said growth.
Okay, let's not go back and forth. You never said growth.
Let me finish my sentence, dude. I said the door will open, not because you make a decision, because people cannot make a decision as easily. Some people that are empowered and enlightened, they can make a decision easily. For most people, common denominators, don't mean it in a bad way, they do operate on fear until that fear is addressed, married a rich husband, and now that there's no fear left, the door opened. Now she can pursue her dream. If she had done it 10 years ago, she would have failed because there was fear in that whole thing.
But she would have been smarter and more resilient and better off for it.
I'm saying some people require something bad to happen and they grow from that. Some people, a good thing opens the door right away.
Yeah. So Dana White, the WFC guy, who, he grew up in a household that the dad was like drunk, he beat up the wife and all that stuff, the mom. So when he's at 52 years old, 54 years old, whatever he is, and he has WFC under his belt, the amount of respect I have for this man is through the roof because he came from nothing. And he just said, you know what? You tell me I can't do it, watch me. Like that's the biggest motivational thing you can tell me is you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. Watch me, I'll do better. Someone who comes from that, the growth is like so nice and so admirable that I put his name on my wall and I want to be like him. A Sandra L, who has this dream inside of her to become a banker or run a business, whatever she wants to do. And she waits until the husband's rich enough, says, honey, here's the money for your first rent, second month's rent, third month's rent. Here's the money for the equipment. Run it just like you would as a housewife of a Newport Beach, plastic surgeon. This would be your like side hobby. If it fails, no worries. Not any of your money that's gone down the drain. It's nothing. Just, have your side hobby, be happy while I go, repair people's heart valves. To me, that you say that's a nice trajectory, whatever your soul was ready. I think that's a cop out again, because your soul has to
So
do
I said the universe is ready. The universe is ready for you to go in this direction.
I don't buy that. But that could be that.
You know what?
That's destiny.
Respect for Sandra L in terms of bravery is 1. Respect for that wrestler is 1,000. I'm not saying these two are the same. I'm just saying people's lives will change. Ned's life will change. Either one day he'll wake up with bad news that you only have 10 years to live, go fucking live it. Or he comes in the lottery, he's like, you know what? Yeah, no more Albertsons. I'm going to go buy a house. In both cases, the trajectory changed.
Okay. So you just agreed with me.
I didn't never disagree with you. I said
you can be in charge of creating that new path for yourself anytime you want. You don't have to wait. You don't have to play it safe. You can play it safe.
But I think at the heart of it, the decision for like somebody like Ned, the decision isn't his mind making it. Is a soul telling the mind, okay, it's ready.
In some cases I agree with you. In some cases you're right. Because in a lot of cases you're not.
In why for 20 years Ned complains, and one day he will wake up, say, have an aha moment. What's that aha moment?
He's not gonna have an aha moment. He's just gonna have a scary moment that I only have 10 years to live. I don't think that's like the same thing as like having the courage to wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm gonna make something out of myself. I don't care. I'm not gonna wait for that resignation letter or that pink slip. I'm not gonna wait for that, EKG reading to come back as like you're fat and you're gonna die. If you make that leap yourself versus waiting for something negative to happen to make that leap, at least you're making it on your own terms.
But I tell you what, I think 99% of people, that change happens because something negative happened that pushes them.
Right.
Ned will never wake up unless something.
Right. So my whole point was, if you wait like me until you're like 48, 49
that was
to
time.
Get divorced,
that wasn't time.
I think
that was the universe's time for you.
Okay. But if I would have said 5 years prior to that, I wish I had a different life, right? And I'm just gonna wait for something bad to happen, and then to me everything was fine. My marriage was fine. My life was fine. There was nothing that I could improve on. So I thought, I wasn't complaining to people. I'm just playing it safe with Nona. I'm just playing it safe in Irvine. I'm just playing it safe with. Like, none of that was part of my vocabulary. I never complained to anyone about my life. Even to when the guys get together drinking beer, everyone's complaining about their wives. I'm the one who never said anything negative about Nona. So to me, everything was great. I wasn't waiting for something to happen to shake me out of what I was. My reality changed because of that. Now I see, wow, this was like, I didn't know what I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So 99% of people who are waiting for something, they are waiting because they're playing it safe. And the whole purpose of this story behind Trader Joe's is like, you don't have to. Like, you have to look at yourself before something bad happens, before Trader Joe's fires you, before your husband leaves you. Is this where you want to be in life? And if you complain to a customer who's not even your therapist, he's not even your boss, he's not even anything, he's just a customer. They're both complaining to their customers that I'm unhappy being here. What does that tell you? Like, you should have pulled the trigger. Like, the fact that you're unhappy, that's the universe's way of saying you're in misalignment with where you're supposed to be.
I 100% get it, but I still think for most people, it does take a shocking news or revelation, divorce, death, sickness, like you said in the beginning,
right,
to open their eyes.
So the soul has recognized, maybe with Ned, the soul recognized 15 years ago that I deserve better. With Trader Joe's girl, the soul recognized 2 years ago that I need to be better. So the soul recognizes it. But it's your free will to stay at some place that you don't like because of fear of the unknown and lack of control.
And I think that's where my perspective is completely switched. I think that's the brain telling them I deserve better because they keep seeing other people drive Bentleys, but they're driving a Toyota, no offense. It's their soul that's not ready. You said the opposite. You said
I think the soul is ready, the brain is not ready.
Yeah, to me, it's completely opposite. I think the brain is conditioned to, okay, I don't deserve this, I deserve better. But the soul is not ready to yet say, okay, brave enough, go. Now is the time.
I read somewhere someone was saying that the soul's calling, right? We drown it out with thoughts of like fear and trauma and all that. We drown it out, right? We listen to the external voices of like people, to like our job, to our bank account. We look at that. that has a louder voice to a lot of people.
Exactly what I said. For 20 years, the brain is telling them you can't, or I deserve better. But
the soul has already made in mind that I need to get out of. That's why she's in misalignment with her soul's purpose and her mind. Her mind is trying to like say, well, I don't want this job anymore because something inside of my soul is sick and tired of this. But the mind says, well, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to provide for your wife? How are you going to provide for your kids' schooling? Like that's a mind telling.
And that's exactly what I said. For 20 years, you think you deserve better, but you're being held back because you got to pay rent.
You said your soul needs to get ready. I say the soul is ready. When you start knowing.
I think the soul, once it's time, the universe is time for you to go in this direction. All that 20 years of waiting, nothing would have happened because the universe was not ready for you to take this new path. At some point in time, it becomes ready. It says, okay, now you can go this way.
So you think the brain has no value whatsoever in stopping you from taking a leap of faith? Because if you're saying, well, now the soul has to also be ready, the reason you're in misalignment, I keep saying that word because I married a chiropractor, but there's a misalignment inside of you, and it starts with your soul.
But I believe at the end, everything has to be right. Everything has to, brain, soul, your environmental variables, everything has to be ready for things to change. I mean, everything is not, it's not as simple as you make up your mind, you do it, or you make up your soul and you do it. I think it has to be everything combined at the same time. Things come together and it makes it happen. Now her.
What?
Now her.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we're saying the same things.
Okay, we can't have dead air like that.
Just digesting.
I'm taking it all in because you guys are so brilliant. Like,
Thank you.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how the heck did I get so lucky?
Yeah.
To be sandwiched between two geniuses.
Yes.
Genii.
Just like cactus.
It's amazing.
Like your Oreo cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here just stunned because there's so much wisdom in what you're both saying, and I get it. Like, honestly, if both of you ran with your individual opinions, I think you would do fine in this life. But to try and make this make sense to somebody listening is where we're getting sticky. Because what if they're listening and they're like, I don't know who to agree with?
Ardavan, obviously.
I think I meditate a lot. I'm just going to kind of riff because I don't know if I have an answer, but I'm going to say whatever comes out. Like, I meditate a lot because I've gotten in this sticky quandary many times in my itty bitty little baby blip of a life.
31 years old.
Yeah. And I don't know shit. I'll just say that right up front. I don't know shit. So I will sometimes have my mind going and I'm like, oh, this is just mental chatter. Like if I can just shut this off, I can do anything. But then I still run up against a wall. And I'm like, wait a second. If it was just my mind, why am I hitting a wall? Is it because I'm a weak pussy? Or is it because the universe is preventing me? Because you guys know what I'm talking about. Like you can get over your mind and be like, bitch, shut up. And yet you still run into a wall. And at that point, that's where I feel like I agree with you, Kevin, because you're like, okay, what's the wall then? If I conquered my mind and I'm doing everything in my power to make something happen, what's the wall? But then where I agree with you is, what about the people who let their mind run them and there are a million doors open and they simply will not walk through it? They just won't. So that's why I said I meditate a lot, because I do believe the mind and the soul have a weird relationship. And the truth is, I don't know what that relationship is. And if I tried to understand it, my head would explode. But if you can get into your heart, that is where I think the key is. Because one thing you guys both have...
Well, heart is your soul. It's not like a pump.
Sure.
We're not talking about a pump right now. I'm not sure.
When I say heart, I don't mean what we're talking about with the soul and the soul mission. I feel like the heart is a gap. Like it's an intermediary place of safety where both the soul and the mind can rest. But I don't think the heart is the same as the soul. And I'll say why. Mm-hmm. The heart, it's neutral, like Switzerland. And one thing that you're both saying is being motivated by fear. For you, you're saying a horrible event's going to happen, death, divorce, illness. And you're saying you should get preemptively afraid and start worrying now instead of waiting for that thing to strike you. And I'm saying, what if you throw fear out the window and you get into this space where you're motivated by love instead? And it has nothing to do with being afraid of being a loser, being afraid of being a pussy, being afraid of never meeting your potential, because that's all fear. And honestly, I don't think the heart or the mind operate, or the mind or the soul operate very well from a fear place. I think, what if you instead get a good attitude that comes from a place of love? Like, what if I, instead of doing something because I'm afraid I'm going to be a worm, why don't I instead do something because I'm so grateful to be alive and I have love inside of me. Like, I love people and I love this hobby and I love this passion. Like, what if we acted from a place of the heart instead of a place from the fear? I think that may be where we reach our max potential. And if we're trying to get to be evolved from a place of fear, I don't know if we're ever going to get where we want to go. I think we might just get stuck in like a tornado. Mm-hmm. But if we can be in a place of love, nothing else really matters. I don't think here's the thing, the chick at, let's call her Josie.
Why Josie?
I don't know. At TJ's, Trader Joe's. The issue with Josie is not that she works at Trader Joe's. To say that that is an issue is a judgment call, and it's a very superiority complex one at that, which is like, oh, you work at Trader Joe's? Dumb bitch. But it shouldn't be that way. The issue with Josie is her attitude is bad. That's the problem. There could be 1 million people working at Trader Joe's. We need people working at Trader Joe's. Some souls may really want to work at Trader Joe's. The thing that makes it aligned is if they love it. If they come with a good attitude, if they're like, yes, I wake up in the morning and I go here and I stock these shelves because I love this place. And I have met people who work at grocery stores who radiate like this positivity, and you're like, oh my God, it's like you're living your soul's purpose. And they are, because they love it. So maybe, again, the answer is not like maximize your potential. You must be rich. You must be sexy. You must be all the things. Maybe the answer is just either love where you are or go somewhere that you will love when you get there. Triple Shot Mindset.